Hey, I'm Matt Manny. Thanks so much for joining me for today's devotional moment. Right now in this series of the Finding Free Devotional, we're going through a section where we're really talking about how to create a life you love. We talked about and unpacked the idea of understanding our personality. We talked about how to discover our purpose. And now in this third section, we're talking about how to create a love for our life, to really enjoy it. That the Christian life isn't about drudgery and just getting from one day to the next, but it's about what Jesus said to us in John chapter 10 verse 10 of having a life that's more abundant and living that out. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite side dishes, what I call the perfect side dish. For Amanda and I, for many years, on Thursday nights was our date night. And so as we had kids, little ones, as they got old enough, we would take them and drop them off at my folks' house. We would go on a date, and so it just happened that Thursday night worked out to be our date night. And so for many, many years, we would go out to a little small restaurant here or there, but one of the places we liked to go was this little Mexican restaurant, a little hole in the wall, where they had some great nacho supreme, and Amanda would get either fajitas or other kind of like street tacos and things. But our favorite dish was chips and queso. Chips and queso, there's nothing better. And so the lights were low, and it was really romantic and a great time to connect. There's no little kids running around calling for our names and asking for help. And so we got a chance to talk, to connect, and to have chips and queso. It was after one of those date nights as we were driving home, and I said to him, you know, there's that verse in the Bible that talks about David and how he encouraged himself in the Lord. I think I figured out what he did to encourage himself in the Lord. And so she looked at me kind of puzzled, and she said, well, what do you think he did? I said, well, I'm pretty sure he must have eaten chips and queso, because that's what encourages my heart in the Lord. And she laughed, and we tease about that even to this day. But the story that David actually, that phrase comes from, that David encouraged himself in the Lord, takes place in 1 Samuel, where David was struggling. He was discouraged because of, well, some horrible circumstances unfolded. David was running from his enemies, from King Saul, who was trying to take his life. He was running from a nation of people, the Philistines, who are trying to avenge the death of their greatest warrior, of Goliath, and trying to stamp out these little ragtag team of Jews, these renegade mercenaries, if you will. And so David had a band of mighty men who are really society's rejects, if you will. They were kind of losers and guys in debt and guys who had been on the run and who had been kind of kicked out of their families and kicked out of their towns. And so they came to David. And over a course of time, they became seasoned warriors and really like kind of special ops kind of guys, where they would go in with kind of guerrilla warfare and surgical precision and go into different locations and attack the Philistines and to go ahead and provide their families. And as things developed, they went ahead and had a headquarters in a place called Ziklag. And so one day when the men were out attacking a Philistine camp, they came back and found, they found in a rare occurrence that all their wives and children were kidnapped. Normally the Philistines back in those days, when they would go and attack a place, they would burn the village to the ground, they would burn the city to the ground, and they would just wipe everybody out, kill everybody. And so David's men, in a moment of frustration and weakness and sorrow, they talked of mutiny and going against David. So David has his mentor, former mentor, and his king Saul against him, his former employer. He's got a whole people group of the Philistines against him. He's got his closest friends against him. He's lost his wife and kids to kidnapping. And so what did he do? Well, the Bible describes and says that in the midst of this dilemma, that David encouraged himself in the Lord in 1 Samuel 29. And so David, well, it doesn't say exactly what he did, but I'd like to think that maybe David played a song, sang a tune, sang something to encourage his heart. 1 Samuel 30 verse 6 says that he encouraged himself in the Lord, his God. Now we know that he didn't eat chips and queso, even though that's what we might like to do in a moment of emotional eating, if you will. But we all go through different times of discouragement, and we've got to find ways to fill us up, ways of encouraging our hearts. And so for you, maybe that's going to be to take a walk, to get out into nature. Maybe that's going to be to spend some time with a friend. Or maybe that's going to be to spend some time alone and journaling your thoughts and reflecting on what's going on in your life. Maybe it's listening to some music that encourages you. Maybe it's reading the Bible and really diving into the scriptures and asking God to help you find guidance and clarity for your next step. But whatever it might be, I would encourage you today, write down a list of those things that fill you up. The things, the go-to list when you find yourself discouraged. How can you encourage yourself in the Lord? For further encouragement and reading, go ahead and check out David's story in 1 Samuel chapter 30, verses 1 through 6. Thanks so much for watching.